Welcome. This is our last video for Project 6. And we're going to be doing is creating a CSS image gallery. I'm going to tell you right off the bat that although this works, this is not the way that I would do it. And I'll tell you why as we get into it. So basically, the first thing we're going to do is talk about absolute positioning. And if you take a look on page 284, it does a pretty good job of explaining exactly what it does. Basically, positioning is going to put an image or a div or whatever object that you want anywhere that you want on the screen, and you can align it from the top and the left. Those are the most common things. What is a little bit challenging to understand is whether or not the positioning is going to take place where you think it's going to take place. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that right over here. So I'm on page 284. I've got the file gallery already open up. I'm going to go into split view. Eventually, I'm going to go into split view. And there we go. All right. So you can see in split view, we have our image gallery. And basically, it's just one image on top of the other. That's why you see all these things here. The most exciting thing you've ever seen in your life. But then again, we're going to make it a little bit better. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a new rule inside the gallery image CSS file called styles. And we're going to position it absolute, and we're going to give it a top. And then you're going to see some of the things that actually will work and won't work until you do make a change, which you'll see very, very, very shortly. So let's go back into live view over here. And I'm going to go strictly in live view. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a new line. I'm going to absolutely do this in the designer. It makes it a little bit easier to do, but what I am going to do is create the actual property in there. So let's go in the selector. So let's go into the styles. We're going to go all the way down to the very bottom. And we have something called gallery, but we don't have anything called gallery image. So I can type gallery here, image, and do it the old-fashioned way, or I can do it the easier way and go into the CSS designer in here. Let's click a source here. Let's get rid of the current, and let's do all. And all we're going to do here is create a new selector, and we're just going to make it gallery and image. Basically the exact same thing. But by doing this, we don't have to type in all the things that they're asking you to type. You just have to find them. Well, position is in layout. If you'll find it down over here, you'll see position. And you're going to see an option over here, static. Now remember, the static is the default. Absolute means this is the absolute position relative to, and the problem is, what is it relative? And then there's relative also is relative to something, but then again, what is it relative to? And the idea of relative is to be relative to where it should be. So if something should be 10 pixels from the top, and you might want it 20 pixels from the top, you can put 10 top, make the position relative, and that will drop it down 10. We're not going to worry about that. We're only going to worry about absolute. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to change this static to absolute. Now, if you haven't done already, I strongly suggest that you look on page 285, static absolute. And absolute will only work if something above it has been defined to something other than static. So you're going to see that more in a minute. So now we have absolute, and it kind of made this thing like really ugly and useless. So we'll make it better. So it's absolute. We want the position to be top, to be 10. So we have to do this, and we'll make this 10. and it's up there, and that's what the problem is, which you'll see we're going to fix shortly. So we're going to make the top, we're going to make the width 80, and we're going to do the border. Now remember that when you make the width 80, you're not changing the actual image. All you're doing is making it appear 80. Now notice I'm just hitting 80 and not typing a PX. You can do that. And we're going to do a border. So here is our border. And we want the whole border. So we'll click on this. We want 3 pixels, solid, and white. So let's find here. And just type in 3. We want it solid. There it is. And we want it white. So I can just type in FFF, or I could have dragged that up there. FFF is a shortcut for FFFF. And that takes care of that. We're going to, we don't need this media query here. Now notice, this kind of looks really ugly. And if you're wondering what this, click on here to create a media query. That is so you can make changes to your web page based upon different screen size. We don't want to do that right now. So now we have it sitting on the top, but that's not what we really want to do. So we're going to fix that very shortly. So what we're going to do is we're going to push the insertion point at the end of the last property to the gallery selection, and we're going to create position relative. Well, we already have a gallery in here. So you can do it, and let's go into split, and we'll go in here, and you can see there is a gallery. You could type in the position, or you could just go down here. It's in the layout. And watch what happens when I actually put in position. So let's put position, and let's make it relative. Boom. So now what's happening is, because the gallery image is inside the gallery div tag, then it's now becoming relative positioning to the actual gallery. The reason why, because we just put this in. If it didn't have it, it would become relative or absolute to whatever is the next one that has any kind of positioning defined other than static, and obviously nothing is, so it refers to the body. So that takes care of that. Now, what we don't see is all the other images, because they're right on top of each one. So I'm going to go into here. We'll leave that actually there. And I'm going to cheat a little, because I don't feel like typing all this stuff. I will type the first 2 so that you can see what's going to happen to the image. So what I'm going to do over here, I need to go into the CSS style. I'm going to go all the way down here. I'm going to create a new tag. And we'll start out with gallery. And we'll do image. And now we're going to do a pseudo selector. Remember, we did the pseudo selector with the hover. I always call it Hoover, but then again, I'm from New York, so that's what you get. So we're going to do something called N of type 1 and then 2. That means the first image, the second image, the third image. So it's really easy to fix. It's just that there's a lot of typing. So we're going to type in N of type, and then you fill in the 1. Of course, if you type in 1, it makes a big difference instead of 2. So let's put in 1. And then we're going to give it left 10 px. Now watch what happens. Okay, when we do the second one, which I'm going to copy. Okay, now we have 2. And this one will be 105. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually copy the rest of the styles that I have in a WordPad so that we do not need to continue to type every single thing in here. All right, let's go to my WordPad as soon as I can find it. And there it is. You can't see it, but it's there. Boom. All right, so we have a dilemma. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there has to be a typo in here somewhere. 3, 4, which I'll resolve shortly. So I'm going to put this video on hold and resolve it. Okay, I figured out the problem, and it's very simple. And this is one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of typing. I left out the colon. If you leave something out, Dreamweaver is merciless. So here we have. So that one was not something I did on purpose, but it worked out well because now we can see that we have a whole bunch of stuff done, and we're still missing some pictures. So I'm going to put it on hold again, and let's go. And then again, you're going to see why I'm not a big fan of typing. Okay, here is the problem. And it's very simple. I'm missing a word. It should be nth last of type. And then last of type. And we just need to get rid of this and this. And now we're good. Okay, so when you have a problem, as I had a problem, and things do not line up, as they did not line up when I was showing you this, 99% of the time is a typo or a word that you're missing, and you just have to go back and look at the book and see what you did or what you didn't do, and that's exactly what I did. And I looked, oh, okay. So we have that now set over here, and I'm on page 287, the very bottom, tells us to save everything. Then we're going to do is we're going to create a Hoover behavior or hover, depending upon what you want to say. I'm used to seeing Hoover, and that's probably what I'm going to say because every time I try to say something other than Hoover, then I mess up. So we know that when I say Hoover, you think hover. So we have a gallery image, and we're going to create another pseudo class. Remember, pseudo class is one that ends with a colon and before the last property. So we have gallery and then image, and then we're going to do hover. And there we have. And of course, we need this here. So now that we have the actual class set up, we could type in with height top or left, or we could go into it here. As long as we saved it, it should appear. So now we can do the width is 740. The height is 380. And the top is 50. And the left is 10. Don't forget the left. I was going to make a pun and say otherwise you'll be left out, but I don't think it'll work. All right, so now we have that over here. And what we're going to do here is we're going to save everything. I'm going to go in live view. And I'm going to move my mouse over. And you can see basically what it does. It now shows the picture at a larger size, but moves it down instead of 10 from the top, 50 from the top. So basically the picture is now moved and shown at a larger size. That's what we have with the width and the height. Now, why I'm not a big fan of that is because really you should have thumbnails and the picture should be shown using what is called a rollover image. We're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to do strictly by the book. But I do want you to look up what a rollover image. Basically what it does is swaps one image out for another. And that's fine. So another way of doing a gallery is to click on it and it takes you to a separate page where the actual image is. So again, we're going back to the many, many ways that you can do the exact same thing. So now we have that, and we're going to add something called a z-index. What z-index does is ensure that your image is always going to be on top of anything else, so nothing can hide. There's nothing more annoying when you have something you can't get rid of right on top of something that you're trying to click. So we're going to fix that here with the z-index. And I'm going to go into design view just to show you how none of this works when you're in it. So let's go and do the Hoover. We're going to add the z-index. And we're going to make it 99. And that's all. 99 is the highest. Going to save all the files. And then we're going to add a drop shadow. Drop shadow is just like what you do in Microsoft Word, or if you use Photoshop, you're adding a little drop. We're going to do it on the horizontal axis and a vertical axis, a 5 pixel, and we're going to make it an off-white. Very easy. You do that exactly the same way that you do everything else in CSS. We're going to go down and we're going to find it. There's our ZX, by the way, our Z-index. And here's our text shadow. So horizontal is going to be 5. Vertical is going to be 5. Blur is going to be 3. And the color is going to be some kind of off-white, off-gray, off-black, whatever you want to call it. There we go. So that takes care of that. Let's go back into live view. And what we have. Okay, it's very challenging to see the actual drop shadow. Normally it's black or something to that effect, but you can see it is there. We can make it a little bit darker if you want to by making it all zeros. So now we have everything. The last is to export your site. So we go to Site, Manage Sites, and here is our kayaking. We're going to export it, and we don't want to do it in the CSS. We want it to be in the kayaking, and that takes care of that. That's all for this video. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.